it's time for an update on the 38 Zephyr project. I think this is one of those things we have to look a little bit closely to see all the updates, because not everything is big and giant and shiny that's going on. So let's have a look. I'll ask JB to show us around, let us know what's happening here. JB, since we were here last, there's been some progress, clearly. Not all of it is enormous parts. It's a smaller, finer work, it looks like. Tell us what's going on here.
Progress is more difficult to track at this point, simply because so much has already been done, and now we're down to the fine-tuning, integrating the systems that are necessary for a car to operate. Obviously, a big concern is the gas tank, and gas tanks come in two varieties. One is the original tank, which, if you're going to a show, the 80-year-olds can ooh and ah over the fact that you have an old tank in there, which of course probably costs a bloody fortune to restore. Or you can just go buy one from Tanks Company that's out of some car that's of a similar vintage, and you got a brand new tank and you have a brand new start, and now you skipped all that silliness, because labor has traded places with part costs 30 years ago, and there's a lot of people not paying attention to that. We pay attention to it very closely. What we're looking at is, how do we get to the goal the fastest, best way? That sometimes takes some thought, and you have to sit back and plan these moves out carefully. Obviously, doing a lot like we have helps a lot, but it doesn't ever get you a pass when you come along to something like a gas tank. It would seem that you just take the gas tank that was in there, clean it out, put it back in, it fits. Well, that sounds good, except that the insides are rotted and it's full of junk and the guts are falling apart. And so what happens is, instead of just taking a $200 or $300, $400 tank, you end up with 3 or 4 times that amount in labor, and then of course your time is, the clock is spinning on the wall and the car's not going anywhere. So
you can still have probably some loose corrosion in there, or something might not work.
Yeah, you never want to bet on an old gas tank. I mean, these are 75-year-old gas tanks, for God's sake.
Right.
Get rid of them. I mean, you don't wear the same shoes for 75 years. So why don't you, use that thought process to disposables like gas tanks they have really nice ones. I doubt seriously most people would even notice that this isn't exactly what came in this car.
I wouldn't have known. It fits so nicely that
exactly. It didn't fit originally, as we talked about a little earlier. Some of the tabs had to be trimmed, and we see this up in here. Because it was a tiny bit bigger.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of work maybe putting in.
Yeah, but very minimal, and Mark is really good about knowing how to do this. He's done it a million times.
Yeah.
So he's not going to go send the gas line, for instance, to the right when it should be go to the left.
Right.
He instinctively knows, after doing lots of them, that he goes in this direction. That's how it's going to end up have to be done.
Right.
So what you do a lot of times, if you haven't done this for your whole life, is sit there and stare at it. It's one of the few things that people have not really perfected is get some patience, relax, get it up in the air if possible, and sit there and stare at it.
Right.
And the answers will start to come to you.
Okay.
I don't care how smart you are.
Right.
I don't care how much experience you've had. It's just a matter of plumbing in a lot of cases.
Right.
If this tank is here and the gas line is a circuitous route on the left, I probably shouldn't go down to the right. Most people will start on the same side that it came on in the stock original car.
Right.
Which is nonsense.
Yeah.
Why you don't have the same gas tank, you don't have the same transmission or engine or any of that sort.
Yeah, I mean, we've changed some suspension and all kinds of things around, so.
Exactly, so all of the variables have changed, so you have plenty of time to sit there, pull up a chair, and stare at it, okay? It's one of the few things people just don't seem to have any time to do, and it's the most important part of the process.
Right, very good. All right, it looks like some brake lines were run too.
Yeah, now you can see that you get generic brake lines. You get them at Napa. They have get the longest ones you can. You can get a series of links that already have the ends on them. That's the inexpensive, smart way to do it. If you want to have it all run in one piece, well, you're not very bright, because that doesn't work that way. You want to feed something in from this way and then that way and meet at the connector. You don't necessarily want to run this giant line a whole distance. Right. It doesn't work out that way.
Okay.
So get a series of links of a brake line. It's already got the ferrules on the ends, so that all you need to do is is get by connectors and sit there again and stare at it. Say, look, if I end this section of the brake hose or the gas hose, where is that going to put me? And you just mock it up. If you tape it to the chassis, if that helps, that's what I do. I just put things where they go, and then I sit there and stare at it for a few minutes. And oh yeah, that's right, I can't do that because I can't come in from the other side. So you want to make it in as few pieces as you can, but don't get bound up in that. Nobody cares how many pieces of line you have, but don't, for God's sake, don't start with the old stuff. Just get rid of all that crap.
Right. Well, let's go around front and look and see how that came together.
Right. You can see here that this is all, of course, this is now a hydraulic brake car, so it's obviously going to have hydraulic brake lines.
Sure.
But if you notice how Mark has done it, it's very clean. He has a bender to bend this
it looks beautiful.
piece of pipe, so it's going to go in there and go into the engine compartment, and it looks very much like it was done at the factory.
Thanks to the fact that the engine's not in right now, we have an easy sight to see what happens.
That's one of the reasons the engine comes in very, very late in the process. It's always in your way.
Right. Yeah. So this comes in through a grommet. It's got all beautiful connectors.
Right.
And it's bent very nicely. I mean, the way he did the bends.
Well, he has some really good benders.
Yeah.
So that the goal here is to make it look like it was made in a factory.
Right.
Okay. They did things in a very planned, methodical way, and they didn't have time to mess with stuff. This was coming down the line, and they stuffed everything in it, and it had to be already pre-bent. The links are correct. And all of that. We don't have the benefit of that, so we got to think that through and then do it in such a way that we save time and money for the customer.
Yeah.
But we got to wind up with something that looks well, but most importantly, it's got to work correctly.
Yeah, it's looking good. And now the front disc brakes are already mounted and ready to go.
Right. Now, if you notice, they've got some room to move here, so this line can now move with the wheel, and this rubber is flexible such that it'll accommodate that movement without binding.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
very good.
We've used a lot of if you notice, we used a lot of the original parts. There's nothing wrong with a lot of the original stuff.
Right.
And that's another thing. Don't eliminate something if it can be used.
Right.
Why are you doing that? Just because some guy told you that?
Yeah.
You read it in a hot rod magazine? Burn your hot rod magazines for starters, because there's more stupid stuff in I don't know, I've written articles for them, okay? I mean, some of the things that are in there, you
take it from someone who's submitted articles.
Yes, thank you. I've done a number of them, and
well, I still am fascinated by
and I read them for comic relief usually.
Right.
Because these guys think that everything has to go through a particular vendor, and that's okay, and the other one's paying the bills. But that's not necessarily the way an owner should think.
Right.
Especially if you're tasked with doing it yourself.
Right.
You sit back and look at the alternative, talk to people. You can call us, and we'll help you with anything that you might want to know. Okay. We have no secrets here. If we can share this information with other people, we're delighted to do it.
Yeah, and you're showing your process with these videos.
Exactly, we're showing you everything in the world we're doing. So if you want to clone the process, we'd be honored if we can pass along some information and knowledge to other people. But as you can see, a lot of this is stock type of equipment that's been modified. You can see here where the transmission is lower in the chassis, so we had to put a drop in there so the C4 could pass through there.
Right.
The regular stick transmission, of course, would be higher, and so it didn't interface with the chassis.
Yeah, I think we covered that in previous videos.
Yes, we did.
Really good.
Okay.
Really good stuff. All right, very good. Well, we're gonna check back here in a few minutes and see talk about the axles going in.
Yeah. Now we have a Daimler expert who's going to be blessing us with his presence here soon. So we want to spend some time with him. He's a great guy, good friend, and he is one of the most talented metal formers I think I've ever met. He worked for many years at the Scottsdale Museum, which had probably the premier collection of sports cars, Ferraris, Maseratis.
When you say Daimler, I think you're going to catch the attention of some British car fans.
Well, yeah, it was a British car.
European?
It was made for mostly the American market.
Okay.
And they had a degree of success. Yeah. But they didn't make a lot of them, and that's good news for people who have one, because that just drives the value up. Jay Leno did one and did a beautiful job on it, and we may be consulting with him on some of the details, because his people are just really excellent. at this sort of thing.
Well, spoiler alert, that's going to be on a different video.
It is.
So you're going to have to look around for that.
Especially if you don't even know what a Daimler Dart is.
That's right.
And no one else does either. So don't feel like you're in a small
Yeah, don't
group.
feel bad.
No, you're not.
Okay, cool.
All right. You want me to light
Put
it?
some light on the subject here.
Yeah.
Wow. Just have to have everything
See
line
how
up the right
splines
way.
have to line up with the rear end.
Right.
That's why he's rotating it.
That axle bearing gets drawn in with the caliper.
Okay.
And it bolts.
Oh, I see.
And then it just
They're
sucks
basically
it in.
using that as a bracket to hold
Right,
it,
sucks
to
it
tighten
in and
tighten it
puts it
down.
where it
And
belongs.
then that'll hold the bracket which holds the brake caliper.
Okay, very cool.
So now we've got, see the other axle turning over there?
Yes, I can see them both. Look at that.
Yes, indeed.
They meet in the middle.
They do.
Excellent. Man, this is
Yeah,
fun.
this is great. Great news. We finally got the pieces we needed. This is a vent tube.
Okay.
By the way, if anybody's wondering what that is, and that's because gases build up inside the rear end. You want some way for it to be able to vent to the atmosphere, but you don't want it splattering all over the place. So you build
Sure.
this tube, so if there's some splash or something, it goes on the ground.
Well, you know, there's a lot of action, a lot of friction, so it's going to heat up, things expand,
Exactly.
and
So
there
that
you
gives
go.
it that buffer that it needs, but it needs to be vented to the atmosphere,
Sure.
not closed up
Got it.
to vent those gases.
Excellent.
Okay?
Yeah, man.